Hi, my name's Andrew Webster. I'm the Chief Security Officer of Transgrid. One of the things that I'm doing today, and one thing I'm very proud of, is that I'm an ambassador for the Starlight Foundation. The way that I do this is through a company called Meet Magic allows me to have a 45-minute meeting, and that 45-minute meeting helps 18 kids come into this room where Captain Starlight and all of the volunteers help to make kids take their minds off what's going on in their lives with sicknesses and let them get out here smiling. So the greatest value for me for Meet Magic is that it allows me to support a charity as a dad with kids. You know, I can't imagine anything worse than having sick children. So for me, that's one of the best uses of 45 minutes that I can make every couple of weeks or every month. Hi, my name's Andrew Webster. I'm the Chief Security Officer of Transgrid. One of the things that I'm doing today, and one thing I'm very proud of, is that I'm an ambassador for the Starlight Foundation. The way that I do this is through a company called Meet Magic allows me to have a 45-minute meeting, and that 45-minute meeting helps 18 kids come into this room where Captain Starlight and all of the volunteers help to make kids take their minds off what's going on in their lives with sicknesses and let them get out here smiling. So the greatest value for me for Meet Magic is that it allows me to support a charity as a dad with kids. You know, I can't imagine anything worse than having sick children. So for me, that's one of the best uses of 45 minutes that I can make every couple of weeks or every month.
Information Security Officer. It's been fantastic today to witness the great work that the Starlight Children's Foundation is having on sick kids. And you really lose yourself when you come into this room, and I can absolutely understand the impact that would have on everyone, families, siblings, and the kids themselves. The Meet Magic platform, it integrates with my daily activities as an executive, and it's absolutely seamless in its ability to help others, but also it really is making a difference in the corporate world because it's changing those business problems. So fantastic opportunity to really give back and to use the position to help others.
Of Meet Magic, which is the world's first market network for executives to leverage their title, their position and their influence to do some good. Today we played Mario Kart with 3 executives, and those executives beat me in Mario Kart and I lost really badly. But what we really did was we showed the executives the impact of their meetings by bringing them into the Starlight room so they can get connected with the impact that they're making through these meetings. Very simple, 45-minute meeting allows 18 sick children to come into the Starlight room and get a dose of happiness, which is what they need in their time of need. Every executive or every business leader or every decision maker on the planet today has a title, they have an influence and they have a position, and they can use all that for some good, and this is one way for you to do that.
What I love most about Meet Magic is that vendors are not wasting their money on a bunch of stupid gimmicks to try and get us into a conversation for the first cold call. And we're getting these great relaxed conversations where we're learning a lot. So we get the great conversation, the money's going to a wonderful charity and making the world a slightly better place, and we're getting more constructive, interesting conversations and learning a little bit more about our industry and some of the other folks in it.
I'm the Chief Security Officer of Transgrid. One of the things that I'm doing today, and one thing I'm very proud of, is that I'm an ambassador for the Starlight Foundation. The way that I do this is through a company called Meet Magic allows me to have a 45-minute meeting, and that 45-minute meeting helps 18 kids come into this room where Captain Starlight and all of the volunteers help to make kids take their minds off what's going on in their lives with sicknesses and let them get out here smiling. So the greatest value for me for Meet Magic is that it allows me to support a charity as a dad with kids. You know, I can't imagine anything worse than having sick children. So for me, that's one of the best uses of 45 minutes that I can make every couple of weeks or every month.
Chief Information Security Officer. It's been fantastic today to witness the great work that the Starlight Children's Foundation is having on sick kids. And you really lose yourself when you come into this room, and I can absolutely understand the impact that would have on everyone, families, siblings, and the kids themselves. The Meet Magic platform, it integrates with my daily activities as an executive, and it's absolute seamless in its ability to help others, but also it really is making a difference in the corporate world because it's changing those business problems. So fantastic opportunity to really give back and to use the position to help others.
Founder of Meet Magic, which is the world's first market network for executives to leverage their title, their position, and their influence to do some good. Today we played Mario Kart with 3 executives, and those executives beat me in Mario Kart, and I lost really, really badly. But what we really did was we showed the executives the impact of their meetings by bringing them into the Starlight room so they can get connected with the impact that they're making through these meetings. Very simple, 45-minute meeting allows 18 sick children to come into the Starlight room and get a dose of happiness, which is what they need in their time of need. Every executive or every business leader or every decision maker on the planet today has a title, they have an influence, and they have a position, and they can use all that for some good, and this is one way for you to do that.
What I love most about Meet Magic is that vendors are not wasting their money on a bunch of stupid gimmicks to try and get us into a conversation for the first cold call. And we're getting these great relaxed conversations where we're learning a lot. So we get the great conversation, the money's going to a wonderful charity and making the world a slightly better place, and we're getting more constructive, interesting conversations and learning a little bit more about our industry and some of the other folks in it.
Whew. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm the founder of Meet Magic, which is let me add myself to the stream. Here we go. 7 minutes late. How about this? I'll tell you why we're late. Bill Gates is the problem because Brian was sat in New Zealand on Teams. Say no more. Say no more. Teams. So sorry about all the videos, but I hope you've had a bit of fun watching them. But I've got Brian sitting backstage, and I'm going to bring him in a minute because he's a complete legend for doing this. But I do apologize sincerely for having to put you up with Andrew Webster and Dave Cowan and Brian and Brian's video. But you know, it should be a great conversation. And the whole purpose of this LinkedIn live chat is really to involve the Meet Magic community and provide you with an overview of some great topics. And one of the big topics at the moment and challenges around the influences of LLMs and the usefulness of AI is in that decision-making process. And I think from reimagining simple workflows to anticipating sort of future capabilities, I want to bring Brian on to sort of come and talk a little bit about what the promise and the perils of some of this AI is. Now, Brian's no expert in this, but his expert opinions in AI because he's with a company that's actually doing stuff with this in this space already. As a business, Meet Magic, as you know, is on a mission globally to change the way business meetings have an impact. Now, Brian's been one of our huge supporters from the very beginning. The platform that we've actually built has had Brian's input all the way along, from the design, from the UX, right the way through. So we've built this. When I talk about changing workflows and using AI, we've actually done that in our Meet Magic platform. So it's a brand new platform for meetings for executives like Brian to get access to vendors, have a conversation, and do some good along the way. As you can see here, Brian is the Chief Data and Analytics and Technology Officer at Loyalty New Zealand. He's had 11 meetings with us. Now, these are just regular meetings that he's going to have anyway. But those 11 meetings have generated $7,500 for Cure Kids. And if Brendan Pongy is watching, where are you, Brendan? I love you. If Brendan's watching, you know, Cure Kids have been an amazing charity that we've been supporting over the past couple of years. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Brian.
Hello, made it, finally. Apologies, but I'm here.
I cannot believe you were sat. Did that invite not update when you saw it?
Nah, unfortunately, sorry. No, well, it could be just my incompetence. That's
Sorry, mate,
also a very real possibility.
Sorry, Brian. I've just got a call from Bill Gates. Yeah, Bill, look, that team stuff, mate, you got to sort that shit out. I'm joking. Mate, it's great to see you, and thank you for taking some time. I was just playing a few videos along the way, just in the run-up to trying to get hold of you. But, I think we've got a few people joining the queue today. I just want to say thank you for your support for Meet Magic. It's been incredible. Maybe as a starting point, do you want to give us maybe a little brief introduction into yourself and what you think the audience needs to know about you?
Yep, sure thing. We'll keep it really short. So Brian Ferris, I look after tech and data at Loyalty New Zealand, which even in New Zealand isn't very widely known, but we run the Flybuys program in New Zealand. That tends to be widely known, equivalent to the Flybuys program in Australia, but totally separate. So we've got a pretty impressive data asset, 80% of New Zealand households over 27 years. And we also have the Lab 360 brand, which is a precision marketing team. So we've got a team of data scientists, digital marketers that use that data to then get the right offers to the right people at the right time. And we're pretty good at it, to say the least. We're pretty proud of that. We just had a recent email campaign with an over 50% open rate, which is pretty much unheard of. 6% is considered very good. We don't get it all the time. I don't want to make that kind of claim, but we're pretty good at our targeting. So data and our ability to use it is the heart and soul of who we are. We're also pretty small. We're pretty lean. So we've got to automate. We've got to use the smart technology to punch above our weight against some of our very large, very wealthy competitors. And we do. And hence we've got to... Well, we've made some mistakes and got some learnings and had some successes. So there's some things that are maybe worth sharing about what we've seen along the way.
It's an exciting time. I think this. I think I set the context of this being a must-watch for business leaders that want to remain competitive in this whole AI-driven economy that we're in at the moment. So, what do you think is some of the things that Loyalty is doing that's going to take advantage of these old machine learning algorithms and AI?
So for us, and maybe it's worth just before we go to there, I think it's really important because of the way this term is being abused, and I use the term abused deliberately, AI, suddenly organizations that had never heard of it 6 months ago, everything's been prefaced with AI. So what is AI? I think is an important thing. And what's different? What's different now to say 6 or 12 months ago? I think that sets the scene because I've been in a number of these conversations and the term AI is getting stretched pretty wide. So for me, I have a definition that I really like, that it's where a computer takes in data, makes a decision and gives an output in a human-like way, and it's seemingly magical. Now, there's two really important bits in there for me. In a human-like way. So it's taking in things the way a human would, and it's got to be seemingly magical. And why do I say that? Because I think that the name is a sliding scale, the definition. Once things become mundane and normal, we don't tend to use the title AI on it. So there's things that were super cool, cutting edge 5-6 years ago. Well, that's not AI, that's just technology. And the same will happen. So I think it's got a kind of ingrained hype cycle to it, which, and the reason I think that's important is because that comes with a lot of risks for business. So what I would recommend, and one of our learnings or things that have been proven, is that as long as you are focused on business value and solving business problems, this is just another tool in the toolkit. If the right answer is a whiteboard with pens, then good. Go with the simplest, cheapest, best answer to the problem rather than... So that's our approach. But where we're seeing the real value here, and I think in a lot of organizations, and what we're using for is particularly around automation. Not only does that take cost out, it's good. Often computers can do it better than humans. So you get increased accuracy, precision, all of those kind of things. And as well as that, you can improve your employee experience, which is critical in this day and age, retaining talent, because often the stuff that computers are really good at and that you want to automate is the drudgy crap that humans don't take joy from. So These are some of the things we're doing. So in our data value chain, we're using AI and ML all the way through from the way we manage our security, data privacy, through to our data quality, the way we deploy our code and write our code, the way that our data that is managed within our data platform, the targeting tools, our machine learning is semi-automated through Data Robot, and then likewise through the way we target through Braze. A lot of it's very, very mundane use cases, but very smart. So for instance, Braze, the tool, really clever. It'll just notice based on open times when you like to get your email. Really, really simple. I noticed that
anytime
that Carl tends to look at his emails, these ones like that, between 5 and 6 a.m. So maybe that's when Carl's commuting. I don't know. But that's when we're going to target to send them, because obviously that's the time that suits him. Very simple, but very powerful, and improves everyone's experience. So that's some of the sort of things that we're doing with this.
It's a really interesting space. At the moment, there's probably people watching that are on the spectrum at some point along the way. They're going to have to get on the AI and machine learning spectrum. What's the litmus test? Is there a set of questions that you've got to use to quickly evaluate your place and where you are from an operational maturity perspective, for example? What about talent? What about data readiness? How do you assess that?
Yeah, and they're all really important. I would, and to answer it kind of in reverse would be, I would strongly recommend that no one goes and looks at an AI tool and then figures out how to implement it. That is just, and it sounds really stupid, but it's amazing how many organizations will do that. You know, if you've got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You try and cut wood with your hammer. It's not beautiful. So it's really, really important, I think, and this is good news for business leaders, is you don't have to radically change because of this. If you've got good best practices, then they will apply to any technology, including AI. What I would say, and in particular here, we're talking generative AI, and we should put a pin in that and come back to what that means, generative AI and LLM, but we'll come back to that. Use your basic technology best practices. Again, what problem are you trying to solve? What's the cheapest, simplest solution to solve that problem? And if you've got really gnarly problems that are high value but seemingly impossible to solve with current technology, that might be a good place to go and have a little sniff and see if, hey, maybe are these things doing that. Having said that, there's some good writings on from people like McKinsey, and they've identified some of the key use cases that are most valuable with the new generative AI. In particular, they identified copywriting, customer service, and coding, development, software engineering. So those are, if you do that as part of your business, those are really good places to start. There's probably value. Having said that, if your foundations are rubbish, your house is not going to be secure. If your data's siloed, if you're ridden with politics, if your culture's really crappy and low trust, if your tech teams are at war with your line of business teams, no matter what technology you're doing, it's going to fail. AI and the speed that AI and ML work at are just going to amplify your problems. They'll amplify your successes if you're good, but they'll amplify your problems if you're not. So get your house in order.
It's a very interesting point, Brian. Not everybody knows this yet because we've not officially announced it, but what our global chief evangelist is a young man in the UK called Rory Sutherland. He's the current vice chair of Ogilvy UK. He's coming on board as our team to help us with Meet Magic. Loves what we're doing. His philosophy on data is it's important to remember that data comes from the same place, the past. So he talks about these black swan events that can throw things, you know, or they could throw basically a perfectly calibrated model into chaos. So let's assume today, what should the strategy be? I mean, do you use proprietary data? Do you use pre-trained? Is it publicly available models, or what sort of strategy or customization of your own data do you need to have? Is there anything that you've seen on that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really important point in this. So the first thing I'd say, there's a really great quote. There's various people with the attribution, but remember that all models are wrong, but some are useful. That's a really important one. So we can't think this is the be all end all. All of them are flawed because all data is biased and incomplete. So even in a perfect world without a black swan event or something like that, you got to recognize there's serious limitations. There's a book called Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez. Amazing book if you want to read and understand why. And that just focuses on one aspect of how women are missing from much of the historical data that we build our stuff on. It's even worse with other minorities and minority communities. It's horrendous. So we got to accept that. Even before Black Swan, your data's imperfect. Building on that, we should never forget the value of a well-trained, highly experienced gut. Data-driven is in parallel to the deep, deep experience that many organizations have, particularly on their front line. Ignore them at your peril. So where the deep experience is suggesting something and the data is coming to the same place, it's probably good. If either of those two are different, that would suggest a conversation's needed. Don't just go left or right, dig. Dig and understand why your highly experienced people are saying the opposite, and then come to a conclusion. Now that will protect a lot. However, you're gonna run into problems, particularly with the speed that these tools operate at. So that if you start from the beginning, basically the really simple one, don't do evil. Don't be assholes. Always start with good intent. There's a good place to be. It won't be enough, but it's a good place. Build transparency and explainability into everything you do. That's going to protect you a lot, and have an ethics team in place. So you're constantly questioning what you're doing and why. Then if you get it wrong, and you will, it's not enough. When you get it wrong, it's going to be really small, and it's going to be possible to understand what you did and why. Explain to people, mea culpa, and correct it. Those things have got to be in place first, and they will hugely protect you. And so as a result of that, it's a horses for courses on whether you're off the shelf or do it yourself. Right. So that's very much the approach we take. So we use Gartner pace layering. So you're really strategically critical systems that give you competitive advantage. That's where you want to put customization if you're going to put it anywhere. Don't put it in your back-end finance systems. Yep. That's not the most important thing. And where you can, take it off the shelf, use those custom ones, and use the basic models. Having done your homework around security, privacy, copyright, all of those things there, and that's a little bit different to the technology we've seen before, but so you got to do a little bit extra there. And then where the off the shelf is not going to give you the competitive advantage you need, then that might be worth investing your own efforts in there, knowing that talent is scarce. This stuff's really hard to do and it's new. It would need to be a very compelling use case to really start building this stuff from scratch. I would suggest tweaking, modifying, or altering, more likely the path for most organizations, especially when it's so new.
It's good advice. I think you starting small. Often I keep thinking about this phrase that what gets mismeasured gets mismanaged, right? I think metrics, and especially averages, encourage you to focus in the middle of the market. But I think innovation and stuff that's really sort of exciting happens at the extremes. And so I wanted to go and have a little look at loyalty more than anything else. Go a bit of a rapid fire question. So we're taking a step away from the data. Tell me one of the most impressive success stories that you can share about loyalty, and anything goes.
Well, there's two I want to actually on that spring to mind, and one's technical, so I'll start there. It's not directly AI related, but it was absolutely critical to our foundation to getting what we're doing right. And that's 4 years ago, we were running 2 on-prem data centers, Windows 2003, pretty manky, old on-prem, 27 hours to do a daily load in a data warehouse, pretty manky. Go forward 4 years, we're completely cloud deployed. 80% of what we've got in there is cloud native. Really, and was a whole team effort. Like, it wasn't just the tech teams, the whole organization had to get behind that and prioritize it and lean into it, and we did. and we did it really fast. We had some awesome partners in AWS and Instillery that made it possible. But that was a huge achievement in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
But the result of that now is where a lot of organizations, oh, we want to do that, and we can. Oh, yeah, but that'll take 6 months because we've got this old thing in the cupboard we got to connect up to. We've eliminated that. So that's been huge for us. The second is also indirectly related, and that's that we have a really strong focus on mental health. And you might think, what the hell's that got to do with it? But we do really care about our people. We've had a number of our people in my teams that have had major personal events, like really damaging for their mental health, really through them. And we've supported them through that. We've invested them, we've supported them, helped them turn it around, and that's been awesome. And we've got them back in their top performing team members again, and that's really awesome. So it's something we're really proud of. We put a lot of effort into that side of things. That's part of why we have a culture of trust and a growth mindset.
Yep.
And those things are critical in this sort of AI space, because you're going to be trying stuff and it won't all work. Failures, it's got to be safe to fail.
Yeah.
So
totally.
we have a huge degree of trust as a result of our focus on our people, as I talked about, and that gives us a lot of leeway for people to feel confident to give things a shot, to try things out, to go, as you say, go out on those edges a bit where it's high risk, and that's where you get the benefits if it's done right.
Yeah.
So those are two things I'm really proud of that have fueled us in this.
It's really interesting. I mean, you're a senior exec at Loyalty, and I was going to ask you about, there's 150, 200 people at the company. How do you spread yourself across that many people and manage the pressure and the expectations of leadership question, right? How do you do that?
And part of it was in the last answer, and the short answer is I don't. And I don't need to. And my people wouldn't thank me for doing it, and I wouldn't thank myself, because they're better at doing what they're doing than I am and forever. So, my team's roughly half the organization. I think we're about 80 odd. And to me, it's relatively simple. It's not easy, but it's pretty simple. If you have awesome people, so there's the first trick, you got to hire the right people and keep them. They're awesome. And you build a culture, a really good culture where they can excel and be the best that they can. And then you have a clear purpose. Then you just have to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And that's essentially all I have to do is get out of the way. So it's not easy to achieve that, but that's what I see as my job as the leader, is making sure we've got the right people and keep them. I have a no assholes policy. I don't care how good or critical anyone is, or how much they're the only person that knows things.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time at work. No one wants to work with assholes, so they can go somewhere else.
Totally. On that, I mean, you're a techie, and I get it. You've got an equality T-shirt on. People might be wondering why I'm wearing red, because I don't normally wear red, but the weekend coming up is quite an important weekend, because these guys are actually kicking off our season. And any Arsenal fans out there, you're going to cop it on the weekend. Now, Brian, being a techie, you don't even know who this is, do you?
No idea.
I can cue the comments and cue all the harassment. Now, this is Nottingham Forest, mate. Those 2 stars, that is one for each European Cup. We've got a big game against Arsenal. It's the first game of the opening season this weekend. And I've got a lunch immediately after this. I've got to go to the city. There's going to be 200 English football fans at a lunch, basically the pre-season opener. So tell me something. You're a techie. Now, what's your favourite device?
Well, it's very simple, my one, and it's in here, and it's because it's my phone. Because convergence, I am all about convergence. I'm not a gadget person. I love this. I don't have a wallet, a watch, an alarm clock, carry books, any of those things. My communication device, my newspapers, my banking. I have one thing, and it does everything. And so I'm all about convergence and optimization. So this is my brain and my existence in there. And so a really good one is my thing.
It's funny. One of the questions I was going to ask you was about this real world Are we living in a real world, or are we living in a simulation? Elon Musk always talks about this is a bloody simulation that we're living in. How would you know the difference between the two?
Well, based on my experience of the tech industry to date, so not speaking of Loyalty New Zealand, but just in general, quite a lot of experience, I would expect it to be a lot more buggy or glitchy if it was a simulation. Yeah. So I would expect to be periodically walking along the street and it would all just pixelate, or people would disappear, and also I would expect the multi-language, multi-currency support to be a lot weaker. So I'm given again my experience of the technology solutions over the years. So I think on that basis we have to assume it's real, because otherwise the go live has just been way too successful.
Yeah, right. It's I don't know where we are. Sometimes I think we're in a simulation. Sometimes I think we're not. But I just look for the magic. That's all I look for these days. Now let's go back to AI and ask a question around investment, because I think one of the things that a lot of companies have got to start to do now is understand that things are changing quickly, right? Things are moving fast. It used to be the case, like you mentioned, Apple, your phone, whatever. You get an update once a year with a new mobile phone or a new software update. With AI, it's coming every 2 weeks these days. It seems like the capabilities are changing, the models are changing, the implications for enterprise and society are unclear. So with all that sort of ambiguity, how would you recommend that organizations any size should be investing in AI?
Yeah, and I guess the first thing I would say is, unless you are an AI-focused startup, so if that's your thing, and there's some very clever ones out there, I'd say don't invest in AI at all. Invest in your strategy and solving your business problems. Now, it sounds like semantics, but this is a really easy distraction to get caught up in. And it's happened before in technology. It's happened with the visualizations and ERPs and CRMs. And we've had lots of waves of technology that's going to solve all the world's problems and transform your business.
Yeah.
The organizations that focus on using technology to deliver their strategy and deliver value will not go wrong. So if you work backwards from your business problems, what are the most important ones? What is the simplest, best way that we can solve them? You're not going to go far off track. With one caveat on there, invest a little bit, not too much, in having someone keep an eye on what's going on and where the possibilities are, because there might be some stuff you've left out of your strategy because it's just impossible. Well, it might not be anymore. So you might want to do some revisions and some test and learns, but only if it's solving a business problem. So if you're saying, gee, if only we could ... Jesus, we'd take over the world, well, maybe have a scan and see if someone's cracked that. And if they have, then have a little test and learn, but always driven by what it's going to deliver. If anyone is looking at, geez, that's a great technology, how could we use it? That rings huge alarm bells.
Priyanka, are you watching this? So when I give you that money for that dev, you only solve the problems that are going to move the needle, okay?
Yeah.
It's really interesting. The investment side of it is incredible. You're seeing a lot of money going. There's a lot of hype happening at the moment. You see that whole hype scale. Same thing that happened with 2000. Same thing that happened with all the metaverse and everything else. And who knows where it's all going to end up. But I think you've got to have a toe in the water, but not invest too much these days. I think it's going to move that quickly. There'll start to be a bit of a shakeout. So a bit of a shifting conversation. Let's talk about the vendors, because time's sort of getting on a little bit. And you've been a great supporter of ours. You've had 9 meetings, and 11 meetings, I beg your pardon. 11. And those 11 meetings that you've done through Meet Magic have generated around $7,700 to Cure Kids, which has gone to support early childhood research for health, which is amazing. Brendan Pongy is one of our ambassadors over there that's supporting that. Tell me why these connections through Meet Magic are different to the other ones.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and the answer was very unexpected to me when I started this. I mean, I started it because it raises money for charity. Okay, it's a no-brainer. 45 minutes a month, I can give $700 a great charity. Okay, why would I not do that? That's just awesome. So that to me was enough. Start and finish, cool. What happened next was really interesting, and it took me a while to unwrap, in that the conversations I was having with the vendors were really different and really rewarding. I think, hang on, why? Because I'm talking to someone I don't actually care about talking to. It's just some random that paid some money to charity, which, great. Well, not someone I was intending to talk to. So why was this so different? And why was I finding it really rewarding? And why was I having follow-up conversations with them? So it took a bit to figure out. And also from talk, because I actually got to be friends with some of the vendors, and I met them at other events, and I yarn away to them. And I talked to them, and they said some similar things, and it was quite different. So it was really good to explore. So I think what happens is, I get literally hundreds of emails a day trying to get cold calls from me. And they offer me whiskey tastings and coffee tastings and speaking events and free shoes. And you name it. They're spending a fortune trying to get hold of me. And I hate the waste involved with it. But also, if I do talk to someone for some reason, which is basically never, but sometimes I'll weaken, I'm very, very defensive. I start the conversation with my cards up, basically treating it like the beginning of a negotiation. I don't want to be there. I'm being very defensive. I've had the conversations before, and the other side's pretty much the same, and they are sides. When I go into a Meet Magic meeting, we're both there for charity. We know why we're there. So we've taken that out of the way. And then it becomes, hey, what do you want to talk about? Well, actually, I know nothing about these vendors' business, how they fit in the ecosystem, the problems. Yeah, educate me. Shit, there's a gap in my tech knowledge. This is really cool. Tell me about this stuff. And so they do. And they're not trying to sell it to me, because there's no sale business. They know I'm not that interested in the first instance. Yeah. So they educate me. Now, this is what the other meetings should be like, but it just doesn't work out that way. These ones do. And we have a conversation, and I learn, and it's fascinating. And often there's some technically interesting stuff, and we'll have a follow-up. Or it can be hey, this is something we haven't thought about. I might wheel in some of my folks who know a lot more about it than me, and just see if there's something we should be interested in here. So the whole tone of the conversations changes, and I've learned a lot. And in some cases, I've then followed up, in one case a couple of years later, because what wasn't relevant at the time, our world had changed, but I had an awareness that, hey, we don't have to build that ourselves. There's some other smart people that were pretty good 2 years ago. I bet it's freaking awesome now. Yeah. And so the connections were made. Totally different experience.
Absolutely perfect. And that for me, there's a couple of things that are in my mind right now. One of them is the fact that we've done over 3,000 of these meetings now in 5 countries, and we've discovered a lot of things that we didn't know before. One of the things you mentioned before was around mental health. I remember talking to Michael Ross, who was the current CTO of Qantas, about why he's done. He did about 10 meetings. I said, Michael, why are you doing these? And he goes, they feel good. And because they feel good, you actually perform better at work. You're more engaged, more productive. And this was something I thought, wow. So we're actually now going to start a scientific research on this. I've got a call with Macquarie Uni today to get some people involved in going to talk to people like you to say what worked, what didn't work, what was the outcome. Because we've heard so many amazing stories from not just mental health, but these meetings being used for knowledge, like you say, and they're using that knowledge to attract and retain talent into the business. Another problem that's out there. So all of a sudden, these meetings are not just, there's no, and we actually mandate no selling, no PowerPoints. I've got this phrase, Brian. It says, nobody cares about your data lake unless it's got a boat on it. And that's it, basically. No pictures, no PowerPoints. So New Zealand is very close to my heart. I'm going to end with this question for you, because for me, there's so many things that I love about New Zealand. Many people probably don't know that I actually spent my first ever time out of England in New Zealand. So from running away from the UK when I was 25, because I had no choice, it was either die or go to jail. I ended up in New Zealand, in Auckland, and I ended up working on the casino in Sky City. So if anybody in Auckland goes into that casino, on the bottom of every single door, there's a metal plate. I stuck every single one of those on for $10 a pop with a pot of glue, carrying these things around. And honestly, this was my life-changing experience of being away from all the drama in the UK and everything else. And it changed my life. So I've got a massive soft spot for New Zealand, from Cape Reinga right down to Christchurch. I've done the whole lot. So tell me, what's the one best thing? And don't tell me sheep or the All Blacks, please, because no. What's the best thing about New Zealand for you? And we'll end on this one.
For me, it's all about the accessibility of our amazing landscape. I mean, even from where I am in Wellington, in less than an hour's drive, or even half an hour, I can be up in the bush tramping, I can be surfing, I can be fishing, I can be hunting, and it's accessible to pretty much everybody. So we've got a pretty remarkable natural landscape. It's really beautiful. It's possible to get away from everyone. It's not crowded. We need to look after it better than we have been, but we're working on that. But that, to me, is the number one amazing feature. It's so accessible, so close, and so beautiful.
And I hate Wellington because it's got too many hills. I remember walking there thinking, I would never live here. Forget it. It's incredible. I remember going to Christchurch, and do you remember the Wizard?
Remember the Wizard? I do. Wonderful Wizard of Christchurch.
I spoke to him, and he told me he was the first man educated to professor standard in the Southern Hemisphere. I think he was marking his own homework, to be fair. But one of the things that he had, which was really cool, was he took two VW Beetles, chopped them in half, and stuck the two together. And he had two steering wheels, so he could just park wherever he wanted.
He is a fabulous character in Cathedral Square.
Brian, thank you for your support for Meat Magic and for coming on here and having a chat with people. I hope people have got some value from it. I'm sure they have. There's a lot of knowledge in your brain that needs to come out. And have a great weekend with us. And if there's anything more we can do to make your life or your journey at Loyalty any more better than it already is, it seems like an incredible journey. Please let us know. But on behalf of Cure Kids and Brendan and the Meat Magic team, we just want to say thank you for all of your support and guidance and coaching and everything else along the way. It's the platform that we've built now, I think is getting there. It really is. I think it's reimagining the workflows of the current execs today, like the workflows, rather than having all those emails and cold calls, log onto the platform, get matched, have a conversation and do some good. It's that simple, and we're getting there. And I just want to thank you for your support and guidance on that as well.
Absolute pleasure. Anytime.
Good man. Have a good weekend. See you soon.
You too. See ya. Bye-bye.